Today we're doing another chapter in the Outlying Fells book by Wainwright, and it's a dull overcast day, so I thought we'd use our time on a fell which Wainwright doesn't speak very highly of. In fact, he says there are no fells that are not worth climbing, but Ponsonby Fell is very nearly in this category, and that's the fell that we're going to do now. I've looked at the map and we've parked up here at a place called Stakes Bridge. Calder Bridge itself, the little village, is down there that way, and this is a dead-end road. That's why I'm confident about sitting here on the edge of a bridge at a road and we're not going to get run over by traffic. We're going to head along the road and then take a farm type track all the way almost to the open access ground where we can then access the summit at the top of Ponsonby Fell. Here's a look at the route.
The area for this walk is the western side of the Lake District, and we're just northeast of Calder Bridge. There's a small car parking area just past Stakes Bridge. We then walk on along the road to a house called Dancing Gate, where we turn right and carry along the lanes, over through some fields until we've reached Farmery, over a bit of marshy ground, through a gate and up to the summit of Ponsonby Fell. From Ponsonby Fell we go back through the same gate, across more open fields until we pick up a track alongside a wall and down to Laverock, a farmhouse. Back down through some more lanes and it will bring us back to the Dancing Gate house, and we return along the road to the car park. From the small parking area it's a good tarmac lane, but it's very quiet.
Before long we've come to this junction and we take right up past Dancing Gate. See the sign for the footpath, and there's dogs to welcome us, but we're just going to carry on up this track. Not long after the house you pass through a gate, iron gate, that says no through road, just public path only. And then there's this junction. Don't take the one to the right, keep up on the track to the left. It's a bit rough, but there won't be any cars coming down this way. As you come up this track, it's worth noting the walls. On that side, it's a dry stone wall, very traditional Cumbrian, rounded stones, all put together, just held by the weight of the stones. Whereas on this side, it's like an earth embankment faced with stone. So the inner is soil. And there's quite a lot of these all around here. They remind me a bit of like Dorset and southwest. But you don't see these so often in Cumbria. There's no signposts here. We haven't seen one since we left Dancing Gate House. And we've just followed the wall. In fact, we've been following the map and relating the footpath to the walls either side of the footpath. And we've come to this point where there's this old bit of farm machinery, which may still be here if you were coming this way. And it's a bale lifter, bale rake. And you'll see there's a 5-bar iron gate at the top with a short section of that sort of embankment wall, about 15 feet wide, and the track that we want goes round to the right. It looks as if it's going through the gorse, but it doesn't. It's a quite a wide track, and it goes up round to the right, keep them going gently uphill. And that's where we're going. This whole trackway got gorse on the left and hawthorn bushes on the right growing on top of the wall. It doesn't even feel like we're in the Lake District, it's totally different. You can see a house way over there on the hill. and the coast way down there. Doesn't look like it's a very well used footpath, but nice to go exploring. Because this is such a little used footpath and there's no footpath signs whatsoever, we've been using the map to navigate and find our way. And just to make it clear, if someone's coming up on this route, there's trees down there. We've just come up that path there, so the trees were on our right, and it was like a corridor, fairly long grass at the minute. And then we come to this 5-bar gate, and when we come to the gate, there's a couple of trees here on our left, okay, and we actually are going to head to on the left-hand side boundary of this field, and then follow the wall, and then we get to the next boundary, we turn left, then right. You need to have a bit of map reading skills, and obviously bring a map, because sadly, as I say, there's no footpath markings at all. So we'll go there. Just as we're nearing the far side of the field, there's this rather large pinkish boulder sat in the middle of nowhere, completely on its own, with what looks like could be a moat around it at the right time of year. But that's a good indicator of where we want to be, because up to the left you'll see a double-sided, double-walled track, and we head up here. Top there's a gate. Which we go through. As you come through the gate, there is a track that goes, sort of continues up over their rise, but we're going to take this one on the right, and we're now heading in the direction of Ponsonby Fell, which you can see over the right, which is our objective of this walk. And this is the very last gate on the track, and there's the first footpath sign that we've seen since we left the tarmac road way back there. So go through the gate and turn right. I'm guessing at one time this would have been a regularly used farm track, and I'm interested to see what's down here in these trees. When I was having a good scrutiny of the map, I saw on this route that we'd come past a place called Farmery, which I thought was a little bit of an unusual name. And going by where we were, I thought, I wonder if there's any chance of seeing something of interest. I love old buildings, I love old barns, ruins, plenty of character and plenty of story. And look at this. This is all that's left of Farmery. Who comes here? What a place. And what a remote place. Oh, fabulous. Old buildings, bits of wall, substantial part of maybe a big barn there with a big door on it. And then I think a house down here.
Marked on the Ordnance Survey map as Farmery with a capital F, it is an unusual name, but it just means a group of farm buildings. It's not a term I've ever seen on a map before.
I love these places. at that. It's like something out of the clearances up in Scotland. Looks like it's just been abandoned. Great subject for painting. I'll have to stop and get a load of pictures. I get loads of inspiration from places like these. Whether anything comes of it if I turn them into paintings, don't know, but the history and the story of these places must be amazing. But now it's time to go on, because we're heading up there onto Ponsonby Fell. Oh, it's overgrown. With a very strong smell of water mint. But we're heading uphill.
The map identifies a spring here, and not only is the whole area overgrown, but it is really wet, making the going very challenging. It's like jungle training all over again. Once out onto the pasture, we head half right towards the gate.
That's wet. A deep pool of water. That's a good pair of boots. Anyway, hopefully that's the last of the wet, and we're heading straight to the summit ahead of us. And hidden amongst the reeds is the summit cairn of Ponsonby Fell. It's actually quite a substantial cairn considering there's no other rocks around. Someone's taken a bit of effort to get them up here. Nearest rocks are down on that wall, but that's quite a distance away. But yeah, this is Ponsonby Fell at just over 1,000 feet. It's been remeasured since Wainwright's day. He had it down as 1,020 feet. But it's around about 1,030, maybe 1,035 feet. But, okay, it's not a fantastic view, but it's not bad. You don't see any of the really big major hills because they're blocked out by the fells in front of us. You can see Lank Rigg, round to Calder, and then we've got Haycock there with a bit of cloud on it, Seatallan, Buckbarrow's got sun on it, Wainwright, Ilgill Head, slight side through the gap, and then through there's Heart of Fell, Stickle Pike I think, and then Urton Pike, Muncaster Fell. It's got a real look of openness and wilderness to it. So we'll get somewhere a little bit sheltered and have a drink and a bite to eat. Clouded over a bit now, but it's still not a bad day. At least it's dry, but a fresh wind. Now, as I've been sitting there pondering life and having something to eat, I've looked over and there's a nearby fell just here, this rise. It's called Swainson Knot, and it's open access land now, and in fact it's about 30 metres or 100 feet higher than Ponsonby Fell here, and it makes me wonder why Wainwright didn't include that as an outlying fell. But most likely in Wainwright's day, when he was writing the Outlying Fells book, there may have been less access to that hill as there was on Ponsonby, so that's why I chose this one, I would think. What we're going to do now is we're going to retrace our steps back to that gate, and instead of then going back down to Farmery, we're going to head down to another farm called Laverock, and there we'll pick up a track that will take us back to the car. I've looked for the best way to get back off the fell without doing a there and back route, and unfortunately the only way to get off the open access land is to come back through this gate, and as you can see it's a wet nightmare. So the idea is to try and open the gate, stand on any stones near the surface, get through without getting my boots wet. I didn't see it after a spell of wet weather. Anyway, we're through. Now we're going to carry on and stick to the left hand edge of this field for a while till we come to another gate. Once we've crossed a couple of fields, or gone through a couple of fields, we come to this gate, which brings us out onto the track. Yep. Which will take us down to Laverock Farm, or Laverock Howe I think it's called. Now we're at the junction of the track. The house down there is Laverock Howe, and this is their farm track, and that obviously takes us down to Gosford. But we're not going to go that way, that'll be a long way. We're going to go down, the footpath will take us in front of the Laverock Howe farmhouse, and then follow that track down, and it'll bring us out to Prior Ling, and then we're almost right back at the car.
The doghouse. I've been in there often enough. The old farm dog didn't even pay us a blind bit of notice. We just walked past.
Old dog.
Once through the farmyard, we take the lane that heads down to the left.
Oh, that's a nice old traditional barn. Lovely. Very tidy farmhouse for a Cumbrian farm. Well, I'm not saying for a Cumbrian farmer, for a farm. Usually farms are working, they've got stuff all over the place, but that was a nice neat one. And now we're back at the junction that we came across earlier. You may remember it much earlier in the film. And we headed up there, up onto Ponsonby Fell. And so we've just come down from the right. And by the time we go through this gate, we'll be back down to that house at Dancing Gate. And then we'll turn left. And in a short time, we'll be back at the car. In another 50 metres or so, we'll be back at the car. Now, I think that walk would have taken about 2 hours if you were doing it as a general walker, and not all the time we'd take for filming and stuff. Yeah, I think Ponsonby Fell's well worth a visit. I like the top, I like the view at the top, looking over towards Lank Rigg and Seatallan and things. Very wet in places. And I'd have to say that nearly all of the walk is not what I call fell walking, it's more like just like country walking. A lot of meadow land, past a couple of farms, and of course that old farm building, which that made it for me as a walk. But Ponsonby Fell done. It's a good route.
Now, those of you who have been good enough to watch my films in the past will realise this is the point in the film where I give a little bit of an end saying, why don't you like my film and why don't you subscribe to my channel to watch more things. But unfortunately, when I was recording this clip, the exposure was all wrong and I can't recover it. So here I am back in the studio. I'm just about to finish doing the film, but I'll say the same thing. And if you liked it and you've got this far, why not click that like button? It's only one click. And even better, subscribe to the channel. Ponsonby Fell was a really nice fell, and I'm not sure we'll go back again too soon. We've got plenty of other things to do, but why not keep an eye on the channel? I've got some more films coming up, which I've got in my archive, because I've got a couple left where Bailey's involved. We'll get through those and then we'll go on to our stage with Nancy. But I appreciate you getting this far in the film, and until next time, thanks for watching.